Hi, welcome to part 2 of this. Also, the lighting might be atrocious. I almost said my screen. My camera doesn't have a little flip-up thing, so I can't really see myself. So if you want actually good quality, too bad. So this is part 2 of reading the 5 books in the Married to Magic series. Where I left off, I was halfway through a duel with the vampire lord. And I can tell you, not really a duel has happened. Has there been a fight? Yes, but it wasn't a duel. I don't know. I think of a duel as like two people walking 10 paces and then turning around and fighting each other. There hasn't been one of those, unless there's going to be. But since I last talked to you, I was on page like 269. And I am now on page 400, I believe. I have 138 pages, or maybe a little bit less, because sometimes Kindle is like, you have this many pages left to read, and then it's just like actually the acknowledgments and stuff. But I believe I have 138 pages to read. I read 130 today, so that's really funny, isn't it? So, the first 2 books, which was a deal with the Elf King, and then the second one was a dance with the Fey Prince, I believe it was. Listen, these titles are long, and my brain does not like them. So, my torturing and suffering for this video I don't think has been worth it. These first 2 books were 3 stars. This one, I think, is going to be 3 stars. I just believe that she doesn't know how to keep tension in books. Alright, we're getting into and starting to resolve now with the point that I'm at in the duel with a vampire lord. I am now at the point where it's like the 3rd act of tension type thing. But it's not like using she hasn't used like the world as like a thing to set up that tension. Instead, she's kind of just using like their emotions and stuff to do that, instead of being like, the world separated us and so now we can't like be together, or like these people tore us apart and everything. No, it's just like, and I can appreciate that in some books, but for some reason in these, it's been in all 3 of these books where it's just like, the character has this trauma and it's a valid thing. These relationships move really fast. In fact, it's even acknowledged in this book, which is the first time that that's happened. And then they're like, but I can't be with you because of this thing. And it's already like, you've already expressed that you're in love and everything. Like, should you be in a relationship with the trauma that you have because of either past relationships or the things that the people around you forced you to do? No, I don't believe you should be. But you're already in this, and so why are you sitting here being like, no, like, you're already in this. You're already talking about in your head how much you love them. Also, by the way, they say I love you within like a month to each other. Now listen, it's been 3 weeks within this book and they've already said they love each other. Now listen, if you've done that in a relationship, I'm not going to fault you for it. Very genuinely, I'm not going to. Because, like, it depends on the relationship. But for these, I'm just like, this is way too fast. And it's always just kind of like, they're like, I can't love you, like, you might supposed to be my enemy, I'm supposed to hate you. And then it's like, you're not that bad. And then they're like, and then it's like, but I can't. And it's like, and I've said this, and I will say it again, I don't believe these are meant to be read back to back. They have basically the same, like, formatting to them. And I also said in the last video that for some reason the dialogue is just not that good. Like, the rest of it is decent. For some reason the dialogue at certain points is just very like, it's not good. And there's just aspects to it that make me cringe. And I think there is always a part of me that is going to cringe when it comes to like reading a romance between 2 characters. There are some characters where you're like, it's been like a couple books and you've been waiting for this and you don't care how cringy it is. You just want to read it because you're so excited for it. But when it comes to like a romance book, I do kind of find just like the regular dialogue of them being like, you're my everything, I'm like a little cringed out by it. There is some that I'm like, aw, but like majority of the time I'm like, so you might be like, why are you reading this? Why are you reading a romantasy series? I don't know. We started on this journey and now I'm regretting it. Alright, it is week 3 of this journey now. If you missed it, air conditioner went out last week and made it so that this video had to get split into 2 parts because boy oh boy. But I'm going to be finishing the Vampire Lord in this video unless something happens, but I am also a duet with the Siren King or Duke is next. I forget what the last book is called, but it involves wolves. Isn't that really fun? It also released on August 1st. It's not August 1st anymore. I started filming this at the end of July. I am having that thing, you know, where you're like reading a book and you don't really like it, and so it feels like it's taking longer than it actually is to read it. I'm not having fun anymore. Now, I do know that the Siren Duke got a lot of slack, so I'm really interested in kind of why. It would also be really ironic if that was like my favorite one, and I'm gonna bet you that it probably is going to be. Okay, should I explain the world to you? I don't think I should in this clip because this has already gone on for a minute, but like, there's a bunch of different creatures in this one world. There's this fade that separates all of these mystical beings from the humans, and the elves put it there to basically protect people, but also in doing that kind of took up some land. The elves are separated from the other mystical beings, and then all of a sudden for the elf, he was taking a bride every something years, and then for the past 2 ones it's been like, the fate is thin here and we're gonna go into this world, even though it was said that, like, that's a spoiler, even though it's like, you can't go through the fade, like, you know, you can't do that, like, that's forbidden. And then guess what, they did it. So there's like weird little areas next to the fade where it's like, oh yeah, actually you can come through and there are humans here who, like, you can manipulate and stuff. Anyways, I also want to say, I feel like a lot of the trauma in this book series for these characters is not really being resolved, and I feel like this one is treating it a little bit more better. Like, they had a conversation where she was kind of like, you said some hurtful things and I haven't forgiven that, but I do appreciate you kind of, you know, coming back and like being nice to me and stuff and kind of wanting to work towards resolving that, but it doesn't take away what you said. And I very much appreciate that, because it's like, while I can't forgive you for the things that you said, I still love you, even though, like, you know, you've said some bad things and we're gonna work on that. I appreciate that, because in the first 2 books it was kind of just like, are we okay now? Like, what happened? But anyways, the rest of this video is probably gonna be me suffering, so if you enjoy pain, hi. I don't know why I always intro these and I'm like, hi, as if you're not already watching these. Anyways, it is now like 10 something. It's the next day, by the way, if you can't tell. I finished a duel with the Vampire Lord. We've done it again, where we've said I love you within a month. We've had acts of like, I can't be with you because of my trauma, and then also like tie-ins from the other worlds. Like, okay, so let's start this off by saying what this book is. Alright, so basically our main character, the one that we follow throughout this entire story, she grows up in the Hunter's Hamlet. She is a Forge Maiden, which means that she makes the weapons and like has a special craft for those weapons, silver specifically, because that's the only thing that can kill the vampires, and it has been passed down generation to generation to her, and she's basically not allowed to date or do anything with anybody because she's going to be married off to somebody in Hunter's Hamlet. What ends up happening is her brother had been teaching her how to fight. I love not clarifying things. She goes to save him after she drinks this like elixir, which we find out is actually like slightly turns you into a vampire because it gives you like strength and speed and stuff. So she goes and she protects her brother, this dude who's like all wrinkly and stuff and has like white hair, and she's like, ugh, takes her to this like really rundown broken castle. She like fights him on the way there. He becomes her blood sworn, which that involves drinking each other's blood. They can't tell a lie to each other, they can't try to harm or kill each other, or she can't harm or kill her coven, and they can't do the same to her either, until she helps fix the curse on the vampire, which is making it so that there are these vampires called the Succumbed, which are basically the ones that we find out have been going to Hunter's Hamlet, and they've been escaping without the knowledge of this coven. And there are groups of vampires that are put into stasis, and they like only wake up after the following generation before has succumbed, but like the last person to do it is like they know that they're about to die, and so they have to wake up the next like generation of people to try and solve the curse that's happened to them. And then like if they don't do it, they have to like do that, and then when you wake up you have to kill the dude who woke you up, because obviously he's dying because of this curse which is causing them to become the Succumbed. And so we learn that these guys aren't actually the bad guy. There's a curse on them set by what they believe to be like a human. The humans, they believe, have been trying to basically just kill them for no reason. They don't realize that the Succumbed are escaping. And then she also, because her father died and a vampire stole her father's face and went in, and she like basically witnessed her father get murdered in front of her eyes, and then was like, oh, it's actually a vampire, just, you know, chill things like that. So that's where her trauma is with all this. So like in the second book, we basically have, actually in all of these books, but not really that much within the first book, we have basically like a group of people who either are protective of this one person and like don't really like her, but like slowly warm up to her. This basically has the same formatting throughout it of like, I don't like you because of X, Y, and Z, but like, oh my gosh, you're different from everything else, and like, oh my gosh, you're different from what I thought, and like, this is, I can't do this because of the people back home, or because this thing happened to me. Oh no, like, I'm actually in love with you. Do you love me? You don't, because you know, this won't end well. Oh no, we're gonna be separated. And then guess what? They come back together and everything's solved and great. And like I've said, I don't think that these are meant to be read back to back. Alright, I ended up giving a Duel with the Vampire Lord 3 stars. I've given all of these books 3 stars. These are all just like 3 stars to me, very genuinely. Alright, okay, listen, I know I've already mentioned like the whole like, you know, like very quick to love thing. There is something to be said about like being in a crisis and like, you know, thinking that that person could die at any time and being like, oh, I'm gonna say I love you to this person because we might not have a tomorrow. Like, okay, but with this, it's not necessarily that. It's kind of just like, tell me that you love me because, like, you know, I want to be with you. Do you want to be with me? And it's like, calm down. You've known each other for a month. You don't need to be making full life decisions right now. And this book had, like, weirdly, the main love interest, the dude, was like, make the decision now. Calm down, buddy. Alright, okay. So, you know, like, there are times where it's like, the age gap is so absurd because it's like this really old being and it's like, oh my gosh. So listen. She's 19. I want you, like, to think, like, okay, what? He says, I'm 24. Baby, that's a 5-year difference. When you're 24, he's gonna be 29. When you're 25, he's gonna be 30. Listen, that's not that bad when you're older, but, like, and then he's like, oh, actually, like, if we're counting the sleep as well, I'm, like, 24 and, like, 3,000 years. And listen, there's something to be said about somebody who's never been in a relationship, who is 19, who's had their whole world blown up, who's never been in a past relationship, going into this world, being in a crisis, having one of the only people who's nice to her and like stick up for her and like understand her ideas. There's something to be said about that feeling slightly manipulative in that. But listen, it's a love story, so we're gonna say that it's not manipulative. Alright, we're gonna calm your horses, but there is something to be said about that, right? And I'm not saying that it's like, I was gonna say hot chicken syndrome. That's not even what the other thing I was trying to say. I forget what that's called. Stockholm syndrome. It's kind of, there's a smidge of that. It's like Stockholm syndrome and Romeo and Juliet, because they like fall in a week and are like, I can't live in a world without you, and it's like, it's been a week, calm down. There was also, okay, in this one, and I think this might be, other than it being like vampires, the reason that it might be more higher rated is because there is more detailed smut. Alright, there is more detail in that, which I was surprised by. I was kind of reading it and I was expecting for it to like, the next chapter to happen and then them being like, oh, we woke up in the morning, and I was like, when she was talking about it, I was like, oh, okay. And it wasn't bad, it was just kind of like, I was just not really in the mood for that type of reading or anything, and I was just like, this is okay, but I'm like, I'm not here for that right now. Maybe if I was like wanting that, maybe, but like it's really funny because you would think like found family, and there's like a slight little bit of that, but it's also like she has a family on the outside of this, and this like these relationships so far like have felt kind of toxic, except for kind of the first one, but that one was still slightly toxic. This one felt a little bit more that, because it was just like so much back and forth of like, I want you, but like this can't happen, and then also like, well, that doesn't really sound like it's toxic, but like so much ping-ponging back and forth of like, you don't actually want this, you know, don't like me, I do like you, and then they would just get into multiple fights. And I understand that's like to set up like tension and stuff, but it's like, couldn't you just wait for them to get into a relationship like towards the end of the book and keep like the tension between them because of that, and then not like put them in a relationship where they're having like a bunch of arguments, because it feels like really toxic, where it's like they're having constant arguments, and it's like it's not even related to the like crisis that's happening. It's kind of just like, do you love me? And it's like, we've been over this like 5 times. You need to calm down. So that's really fun. Also, the second book, one of the characters was named in this, and they were also talking extensively about that character's like dad and the shipment of it like affecting them, and I was like, wow, we're really tying this in. Listen, I'm sorry. Alright. Oh, what are the ones that I put? Yeah, also some of like the writing and like the way that she like restates stuff is really funny to me, because it's like, you don't need to be doing that. I also have one of those things, basically with the oath, right? They can't lie to each other, and she goes, it's crazy like how much trust we have in each other. You're telling me you're like one of the options to help save us from this curse. You can't lie to me, and you can't attack me or kill me either. And you're telling me you wouldn't have some trust towards that person because they can't do those things? That's like me being like that's like me being like, I don't know what, I can't even compare that. That's like how dumb that is to me. That she's just like, we have trust in each other. I'm like, why wouldn't you? So I'm suffering now. At this point, this started off like, and now I'm kind of suffering. I act as if I can't just stop reading this, but like, I also feel like I kind of can't. I want to get through this because I want to, 1, say that I did it, and 2, have this video done, and then also 3, because I'm kind of just want to see whether or not the same format happens again, which the 4th book, oh my gosh, these titles are is a duet with the Siren Duke. The different words for like royalty and people of like within royalty is really funny to me. And then the last one doesn't have like a, like, you know how all of them are like a deal, Duel, a Duet, like that kind of thing. The last one doesn't have that. That one was highly rated, but it like just barely came out, and so I'm guessing there might be some like biases, like biased reviews in that. Listen, I'm not saying, but like there are some times where a book comes out and it's like all 5-star reviews initially because nobody else has read it except for the people that are like you send ARCs to, and I'm like, are people just rating it 5 stars because you personally, because you your self-publisher sent them the book, and so they're like, I need to be at least a little nice, a little bit nicer to them. Although it could be an incredible work and I have no idea. We're going to get to it though. We're going to see. I have finished the 3rd book in this series and I'm going to read the 4th book, and I will see you tomorrow when I start that freaking book. I am delusional at this point, but you already know this. Hi, how are you? I love filming this. I meant to film this from a different angle. You're getting it. This is like back to back, this freaking angle. So, I've now read 100 pages of that. Sorry, that was just really gross, me doing that. Of a duet with the Siren Duke. Also, I was wrong about the Wolf book. It does have, it's a Dawn with it, but my brain, because it wasn't like the U in it or something. I don't know. I've read 100 pages. Guess what the plot is? So, there's this human, and now she got taken to this world. There's a little bit more preamble before that, which I do appreciate. And she's the only hope, but she's human. Alright, so, let's start off with the fact that I was joking about, like, oh, I might like this book a little bit more. So far, at least with the beginning of it and like the setup of this, I do like it a little bit more than some of the other books, like first setups that they have for the characters. So basically, her character Victoria is what she wants to be called. I think her like full name is Elizabeth, but like she goes by Victoria now, and that's because she married this dude who lives in a like lighthouse, and he has to like operate it and stuff, and he basically told her, don't ever go into my study, your family hates you, you have to serve me, and then also you can't leave. And so basically she gets locked in this tower not knowing that her family is writing her. It's basically Rapunzel, and it like kind of, but she's locked in this lighthouse, he's going on trips and stuff. She thinks that her family's abandoned her until she finds their notes and decides to leave. But there are sirens, which are like these fatigued creatures who have like wide eyes and are like really bold. You know what that is, right? She's like, I'm gonna escape, and they stuff like cotton and stuff into their ears and have the earmuffs over it to not be able to hear the siren song. There's this one rowboat to this one lighthouse. She snuck away from her then husband, who is abusive, not like physically, but like emotionally, and very much manipulates her and is just all around a horrible dude. And so she gets into this rowboat. Well, first she has a hard time pushing it off, and then she has to go into like the water. She gets in the boat, and because they have like their ears stuff so they don't hear the siren songs, I initially was like, she said like he was leaning out the window and was like saying this but with his hands, and so I was like, are they using sign language? Because this doesn't make sense otherwise. They are, or at least like their form of it. I don't know enough I don't really know sign language at all. So I don't know if like the hand signals that she's describing actually would correlate with the words. I have no idea. It might just be like made up for the universe and stuff, because maybe she doesn't want to have to explain all of it, or maybe she doesn't know sign language and didn't want to dedicate the time to it for this book when it's, you know, just kind of in the beginning of it. So guess what? She gets taken by this siren dude. But instead of being like, oh, I just got out of this really toxic relationship and I want to see my family, and like, I know what love is because this dude treated me like this and that's what love is. No, he gives her a 5-year deal, and he's basically like, In 5 years, I'm gonna come and claim you. And then so basically we skip to 4 years and 6 months. We find out that now she has taken on a new name, but she has gone back to her family. She is now a captain of a ship, which the second book with the Fae Prince, it's her father's company, and we find out what happened to her father, which is really funny. At least I believe it's her father. So yeah, we get the Applegate Company. I love that character, My Little Pony. She goes back home, she gets a divorce from her horrible husband, and she has to pay what their government is, and then also this dude Charles, who's the ex-husband, like, each 10,000 kroons, I believe, is what their currency is there. And basically people don't like her because she broke an oath, and where she lives, that's worse than murder and easier to chop off your arm than to break an oath there, or whatever the stupid thing is. And so she's like, hey, I need a bunch of money. This really dangerous path up north to get all of this silver where this silver mine is. She's like, okay, if I go there, even though I promised my crew that last time would be the last time that we went there, guess what? They're going back. And she goes and says this to her crew, and they're like, I don't know, bro. And then they're all like, yeah, and you like helped save us, and you did this for us, and you gave us extra pay, so we're all down for you, and we're all going to, because we now know, because you told us that you need the extra money, we're now all going to give you our money. And listen, I understand this is a fantasy, but there's no way you're telling me people who were either criminals, debtors, or are just living in general are going to give you all of their money that they earned from this trip just because they like you? I'd give you maybe 50. I'd give you 50. Alright, I'm not giving you all my money. I don't care how in debt you are. I'm going to help you and feel good about it and not care for because you're living too. You need to have necessities to pay off. Well, I just stuttered so hard. But I guess, like, if you're living on a pirate ship, I don't even know that, because she talks about them going into town. Do they not need the money for that? And then they were also talking about this dude has a daughter. Anyways, there's some contingencies and plot holes throughout this whole series. I should not be getting stuck up on them because that's not what this series is about. So, they go sailing. Guess what? They get under attack. This dude, it's like 4 years and 6 months. This dude comes and saves her. Everybody that she knows and on her captain ship that she's friends with and have become like her second family, dead. The dude rescuing her says, hey, I only came here to claim you. I can't help them. Let's go. She fights back against him, but still, it's really funny to me. And then also because of her needing to pay back all of this money, the reason that she was risking going to like this dangerous silver mine, she basically was doing it so that her family didn't go to prison, and like they had to give basically their estate and like all of the money that they have, and they can't get out until all of it's paid off. She was doing it for her family, right? So now we have two things. Her whole crew is dead, and then also, her family is at risk for, in the next 6 months, to become put in prison because of her debts that she has not paid back, that she was trying to earn on this trip. Okay, we're scratching the surface. We're scratching the very surface right here, alright? So that's the beginning of this book, right? So, just like the vampires, there's a curse on the mer people. We don't know fully yet, but there are, I forget the exact word, it might be like mists, or no, it's wraiths. I believe it's wraiths, which are like the messed up looking mer people, and the one that people like associate with like basically instantly killing and feeding on people. So that's really fun. And also their whole empire is really weak, and they don't really like her that much, and she's like sassy and like because, you know, she just watched all her friends die. Just a casualty. And also her family is in severe need of money because of her. So, you know, just calm things, and they're just judging her for being, like, upset about all of this. She's like, you collected me 6 months early, and all of these people that I know are dead. I don't have the money. But this dude's like, well, we need you for this ritual to, like, save all of these people, so, like, could you not be like that? But this dude helps fight with the people that he commands. So he's really courageous, guys. He's really courageous. Again, I'm only 100 pages in, but yeah, it was the trope of like him being injured and her being like, oh, and helping him, well, bringing him to help. I don't know why I always found that trope really funny. Because the people are like, did you do this to him? And she's like, I'm so sorry. How would I do this to this person? Also, there's a weird thing about them not like touching each other for this like ceremony thing. And also, I think he's like, because he left a mark on her, like when the 5-year deal, when he like set it into place and was rescuing her. And then now he like has put like markings on her and stuff. My theory is that he's turning her into a mer person. Because, okay, either that or he somehow has the ability to turn into a human. Because she's talking about filling this dude up. Alright, she's like, he's chiseled. And I'm like, yeah, of course, because he's swimming and stuff. Again, mer. So, think of mermaid, right? Bottom half fish. We even established that, alright? These books have, you know, just slight smut in them. How is it gonna work in this book? I just have a question. I want to know how it's gonna work in this book. Because the other ones I'm like, okay, like, yeah, the first elf, fae, vampire, all very human-esque. A mer person? How is that gonna work? I genuinely want to know, first off, what the curse is, what he's, like, doing to her with this, like, ceremony thing, why they're not allowed to touch, how their stuff is gonna work out, how she's gonna make it so her family's not in debt, and then also how she gets over this she's gone through so much already, and she's just like, because people in town are treating her bad, because they're like, how dare you break an oath, even though your husband was a horrible person, how dare you break an oath. It's like, calm down. But also, like, what do you care? Anyways, she already has so much trauma. Oh, we also did already establish the whole thing that I hate of, like, you chose the wrong person, like, nobody can love me because, like, I'm so messed up. Shut up. Okay, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this very clearly. Just because you have gone through traumatic or horrible things in your life does not mean you are not worth love. Just because somebody else has treated you horribly does not mean you are not worth love. Just because somebody else's opinion has caused for you to think bad about yourself, their opinion is not what everybody else is thinking, alright? Never has been, alright? People love you and don't treat you like that. You need to find them or get out of there if somebody's treating you like that. Alright? And don't sit here and go, I'm not worth it, after somebody treats you horribly. Alright? Go to therapy. That's my only suggestion. There's no therapy in this world, so, like, you get a pass slightly. I'm very passionate about this book because I don't understand how stuff is gonna work in this. It's also just the same format, and I'm kind of going stir crazy. This is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, and I am reading the same thing over and over again with just the slightest little... But I do have to say, I do like this character because she is very, like, independent, I guess, kind of thing, more like self-confident, even though, like, you know, like I just said, she's like, I'm not, you know, worth love and nobody can love me, like, you know, well enough. And it's, shut up. Anyways, yeah, so I like her character setup already better than some of the other girls, because it's just like, also she's older, she's like 24, 25. We started this book when she was like 18, and I was like, her frontal cortex is loading, alright? So maybe she's able to make better choices than some of the other characters, alright? Bye. Hello. So I've read to chapter 16, which is page 200. Wow. I'm gonna try to read more tonight. We'll see whether or not I make it any further, but... Alright, something that I didn't mention that has happened in all of these books is that there's, for some reason, this trope of, like, there's this, like, villain or bad thing that's happening. The main character, like, brings it up and is like, hey guys, like, you know, this horrible thing is happening. And then the people around them will go, no, you're crazy, and not believe them. And then the bad thing will happen, and they'll be right about it, our main character. And then everybody else is like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't believe you. That has to be the most annoying trope ever, and it has been in the past 3 books, alright? Anyways, venting my frustration about that. What do I even have to say about this with an extra 100 pages left, or not left, but so we have now like established a way that she's gonna help her family, and like now this dude knows why she's like was freaking out and wanting to leave, because she was like, listen dude, I'll give you my soul if you just like help save my crew and then also give my family money so that they're not in prison because of debt. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he shows her, like, basically, you know that scene in Little Mermaid where she has that, like, treasure trove? This dude has one of those. And she's like, listen, half of it, like, if I give them all of this, it's not even gonna make a dent in the amount that we have. Also, it's gonna look real weird that they're just selling these things that, like, are very expensive. And people are gonna be like, did you steal this? Are you using that? Like, are you stealing stuff to pay off the debt? And then also she's worried about, like, her horrible ex-husband, like, basically finding out that her ship went down and then making it so her family has to pay immediately or asking for more money. So she's trying to, like, go out of this little, like, bubble that they have around I forget if she even gave this city a name that the mer people are in, and it protects them from, like, the curse and stuff. And she's like, hey, you know how I crashed a ship full of, like, silver, and it was talking about how expensive it is? Yeah, basically if we go back there, get all of that silver, and bring it to my family, they can sell that for basically, like, how much they need. I was like, I don't feel like that's what's gonna happen, but anyways. So, I was earlier talking about, like, how they can't touch and stuff. Well, they can, but it's, like, against the thing. Well, apparently the whole, like, thing is that every 5 years they do this ritual where they, like, have these verses and, like, songs on them, and basically this magic makes them forget stuff, because when they're presented to this bad guy, they can't be, like, resistant or have any ties to their, like, past and world, because then they won't be able to be, like, resistant against some of the stuff that's happened. But, like, so this happens every 5 years, right? It's never been a human before, which I found really interesting, because normally they're like, the human, like, it's a human that has to do this, or, like, humans this and that. In this, it's kind of just like, yeah, I found you drowning, and so I made a deal, and now we're gonna hope that this works. Like, that's what this is so far. So basically, it's like, hey, if you touch and stuff, you know, you're gonna fall in love and have an attachment, and then also, like, not be able to have your mind fortified against this thing. And also, she's, like, able to choose what memories she forgets during this, like, musical stuff, and I'm just, like, sitting here, and I'm like, what is this? She's talking about forgetting, like, Charles, the abusive husband. And so my question is, like, if you're forgetting him, that's not really going through, like, your trauma and stuff. So I'm like, is this another thing of her, like, writing characters, and she's just like, yeah, they went through their trauma, they're okay. And it's like, no, they're not. Oh, also, she went into this dude's head after he got, like, attacked to help bring him back, and he, like, with his mother was walking on land to this tree, and so I'm like, is there gonna be something like that? Is that how they, like, you know, is that what's gonna happen? Because otherwise I'm very confused. Is she gonna get a tail? Is that what's gonna happen? Anyways, there's also the thing that I hate the most, which is, like, other female suitors and stuff. It was only one scene, but I hate that so much when they're like, oh, like, she's gonna get jealous because there are people flirting with this one dude, and it's like, she's known him for 2 weeks. Calm down. Also, she's already said, I need you. I mean, for, like, surviving, yeah, and so that your family doesn't go to prison because of debt, yeah, but, like, any other way, no you don't. Oh, also, same with the vampire one. They did not shower. Okay, in the vampire one, I keep forgetting like so many details of these because there's so many absurd things that are happening. In the vampire one, she was talking about like how the tap and stuff is like mildew. All of these books, they have not once talked about showering or cleaning. Like they've talked about like, oh, getting, redressed. The third one, she talked about how nasty like the tap was and the mildew, how they were bloody and everything. Not once did they talk about bathing. There was no mention of that. And I was thinking about that because I was like, I think she's the cleanest of all of the main characters because she's in water. Anyways, that's my rant. Bye. Hi, how are you? I'm now on page 351 of a duet with the Siren Duke. So, we're getting to spice right now. I haven't fully read all of it, but stuff is happening. So, I genuinely think that she doesn't know how to write, like, a pirate story. Like, she doesn't know what, like, lighthouses and ships do. Because we went from, like, the quest of them, like, setting it up at the beginning of, like, the pirate ships and stuff. And then it was just like, oh, 3 weeks later, we're at the silver mine. And then, oh, the ship goes down. Like, she barely talks about that adventure at all, I was like, that's understandable. And then she was having the main character explain to the love interest, the Duke, having Victoria explain, like, basically how sails work and then, like, buoyancy of ship. She, like, mentioned it in very brief terms, alright? She, like, also, they have a court here, and there's, like, we're learning the past on the Duke. There's no way I'm gonna be able to say his name. Hold on, let me see if I can find his name for my iPad to say to you. There it is. Ilrith. That's his name. It's spelled Ilryth. That's his name, by the way. Anyways, I also wanted to mention that I realized there's no people of color, at least for the love interests and stuff. Like, she has them as, like, mentioned them as, like, side characters, or been like, yeah, there are. None of the love interests, none of them. Everybody's white. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's a little funny that there's 5 books and not a single one of them is a person of color. I also think that, like, she has, like, a bunch of really good metaphors in this for, like, different things that they're going on through their life, and, like, the main characters and the male love interests are, like, really understanding and stuff, and they say, like, really good metaphors, but for some reason, the rest of it, and even though they have these understandings, they're just like, I still don't deserve love, or this person doesn't actually love me, when they're, like, putting their whole heart out for this person. Anyways, we've dealt with how to pay back her family. We went on a little quest, which was really fun, and of course they got attacked, and of course she has magic, and so she was like, oh, let me help you. And now, because of that, they went to, like, a court, and now there's, like, a whole thing with the anointing and stuff. But yeah, we're getting Spasa now, and I'm very interested in what happens here with this. We'll see whether or not it's brief, because the last one it wasn't, which was shocking to me, but we'll see with this one. So, it is now Tuesday, and you might be like, why didn't you film yesterday? So, I think the universe hates me reading these books, because right now, as you might be able to tell from my fan not being on, the power is out. But before that, this weekend, my body decided that it wanted to eject everything that was in it out. And I had a really bad fever, body aches. I still have a fever, and what I am now guessing is a head cold and possibly a chest cold. Over the past 2 videos now, this freaking series has been either causing or just been there while chaos is happening. So, apologies if this last book does not get as much recognition, and also for not really filming the ending of a duet with the Siren Duke, because I am still ill, and I don't think you wanted to see me yesterday when I was just barely recovering. So, I was just having a really fun weekend. And now I have finished the 150 pages that I had left of a duet with the Siren Duke. These freaking names, my guy. I gave it 3 stars because I've given all of these books 3 stars. I don't know where I last left off. I believe the last time I was talking was about like the possible smut, and I didn't know how it was going to happen. Well, the way that it happens is there's like this magical beach where they turn into humans, or this like little island spot where there's this tree, and then there's little alcoves where you can go and mate, and then there are like beaches where you can be doing that. This book was a lot more smut heavy than like the last couple of books. That might be part of the reason why it's like lower rated. I will say that I did like the dealing with like trauma in this one a little bit better, because the whole like anointing thing, she has to forget like memories of her past, and then with that we kind of later on have like processing because of that in a weird way. So that was it. I actually didn't mind that one, and also the I love you in this one wasn't bad. It was 2 months in. These all follow the same format. And then also she was not believed about something. There was like strain between the two characters multiple times, unnecessary times. And then, there was one like horribly rude character that we didn't need to move the plot, alright? Just saying. These are all like the same format, if we're gonna be very honest with ourselves. It makes me wonder, the Air Awakens series, I believe, written by her, I wonder if like all of the books in that are very similar, or since she knows that they're read back to back in like a series format, if they are different. And also because it's like, I'm guessing one like world's moving together, like we're following one character, so there's more like plot changes and stuff, and it's less, not saying that it's like basic, but it's very close to being that with this world. So but I did like the ending of this book a lot more. I will say it's both because I was sick and like not really wanting to read this series that I was kind of just slugging through this. So sorry for the short little thing. Oh, there was also a reasonable age gap in this. I think she's 25 and he's 27. That's reasonable to me. I'm okay with that, alright? And then, I don't know what else, but the next book is a Dawn with the Wolf, is it King? I don't know. Oh, the Wolf Knight, I believe it is. So it is different, like the way that it's not double D's. But maybe I'll have more thoughts and opinions later, but my brain's not working too well. So, apologies. But, yeah, I don't know what's happened, but at the ending of both of these videos, with, like, the last book, something has happened, and I don't understand what. Maybe the universe just really hates me reading these books, which is understandable. Hello. So, I read to 100 pages of A Dawn with the Wolf Knight. This already, I can tell you, has a much better setup than the first couple books, but this has happened in the past where she's had really good setup, like with the Fae Prince. The setup and like the tension and stuff that they were having was really good, and then she just cuts it off very abruptly to change it to this different like plot line. And so I'm very scared that that's going to happen in this book. But so far, it's not the thing of like, oh, she's human, but it's not like, oh, like she's lesser than us, like she doesn't understand anything. She's a witch, all right? And these dudes are technically lichens, which I guess are like werewolf. I tried to look it up. There's not that much stuff about this, all right? So the lichens are basically werewolves. There's this king, and he needs this like spirit lady who has this ring to basically rule over the land, or at least have people be like, yeah, he should be king. So it's kind of like is it the Fae? Yeah, the Fae, where they had the whole thing of like the crown sitting on their head, and if it doesn't sit on their head and like slides off, they're not royalty and they can't take the throne and stuff. And so I guess it's like a proof of deserving of it, and they were talking about like not for long. So I'm like, is it like the Fae stuff where it's like they're cycling through a bunch of these dudes because people keep trying to. So I was like, are they just cycling through a bunch of people and this like ring is supposed to be the powerful thing? It's basically giving Lord of the Rings, where they're like, this ring gives you powers, but basically our main character Phelan, which I was like, I could have sworn I heard that name before, but anyways, she goes into this woods. Her grandma just died a week before that, and then she's in the woods. This spirit who's inhabiting this lady's body, well, not inhabiting, she was given this like mortal form, and so she goes and she like breaks the ring. A piece of it ends up going, like, the magic, not like a piece of the ring, like the magic from it goes into Phelan, and so she now has like the magic that this king wants. But she originally had escaped with this girl, and there's also like different spirits of different like little things, and so she has like a fire spirit and then also like a marigold, and they do different things. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so she goes into town to prepare to take this spirit to the Sirens, who are supposedly like the old gods are there, and so she wants to get the magic that's currently in Phelan out of her and give it to Aurora, that's her name, so that she can be whole again and escape the Wolf King, who claims that she is his. And so she goes to the market preparing and stuff. She comes back, house is burned down, but the two spirits, one of them was able to, I think his name is Foltos, was able to save the other one, Mary. She has a very common name. The rest of them have like absurd names, and it's just Mary, but it's for Marigold, so I'm like, that makes sense. But so yeah, we already have our trauma. We already have our trope of a really rude character, because when she goes into the forest after getting her little spirits to find Aurora, the spirit that this lady is, and she now is, she was tied up and being like interrogated where the ring was by these wolf knights. And guess what? There's two of them. One is already dim-witted, horrible person, and the other one, our love interest. Now, I was kind of concerned because of the amount that she was talking about the really rude guy. I forget his name, but I hated him already, and I was like, I swear, if it's not the other dude, I think it's Everender. These freaking names, dude. So I was really concerned, but we got a scene between them, and I can already tell you, I like this, alright? Their tension, it feels much like the world, everything feels, I don't know, better somehow as of right now, but I feel like that keeps happening at the beginning of the books, where it starts out pretty good, and then it kind of just falls apart. But I am being hopeful, because this has setup that I really like. She's a witch, he's, a wolf knight, and he's already had talks of like the people betraying him or not acting good towards him, and I'm like, yes, trauma that we can be mutual together, and it's not just one-sided. And then like also, we can help heal these people or figure out what's happening and save this spirit, or maybe the spirit's evil, I don't know. But it's already pretty interesting, and I did fly through the first 100 pages, which I am so happy to report, because with the duet with the Siren Duke, I was sludging through that, alright? And so the chemistry and tension, there was a scene between the two of them, because he was like, I can't let you out of my sight because I don't want you to escape with Aurora, because she had already like basically taken her and stuff, and so now she's going into the Fade because she has like half of the magic, and she's also a witch, so she won't be fading. Because apparently if you're a human in the Fade 1, you can't cross it, but 2, if you do somehow, you end up withering and basically can't taste any food or anything. I don't know if I've told you this. I should have, because that's information that's very vital to all of these stories. Basically, she's fine because she's a witch and has half of this magic in her. But there was a scene between them in the tent, and I was like, and this is giving like enemies to lovers, but not in like the toxic way, I guess. Because a lot of these have just been like, you killed my people, oh, you killed my people, I hate you. And then it's like, they don't really resolve that. It's kind of just like, well, I got attracted to you, so like, that's it. It's like, I'm really hoping this doesn't follow the same formatting, because I will be very upset if it does. There's also in the Fade, the little spirits that she had, because she was carrying them with her, they turned into like human-esque type things, and they were able to talk to her. And then also the little spirits, they're able to like commune to each other, and now because she has like a part of the Aurora's like magic in her, she's able to commune with them, and other people can't hear that. And I was like, I love that. I love that. Yay. Hi, how are you? I am now on page 198, which is a chapter, but I don't remember what chapter it was. So, a lot has happened. This book is a lot more, spicy than the other ones. Alright, okay. I'm still sick. So, okay, so you remember how I was talking about how she has like half the powers in her? This wolf king dude is like, I'll just marry you. And apparently he has this like charm thing that makes it so that he's like irresistible to, and like all of his commands and stuff, and people like instantly love him and are just like, oh my gosh, for him. So other than like the stitching in her clothes to help her with that, she needs to relieve herself, is what they say, because he's trying to like get her to advance on him, basically. So if you catch my drift. And so obviously she can't do that in front of Aura, and Aura can't leave her tent, and so Evander is like, come to my tent, and then she explains what it is, and he's like, well, I can't leave the tent. And I was like, you can make do, honey. Go stand out in the back of it, and if you see anybody coming, you can go inside. I don't get why he's like, I need to be in here. But anyways, he's like, I'll turn around and close my ears. So this man's literally standing there like this. And she's just over there being like, I don't think I can do this. So what I'm guessing is that, oh, and she thinks about Evander while she's doing that stuff. So my guess is that because she's getting closer with him, because he's like her personal guard, or like assigned personal guard. And so my guess is that he's gonna be like, either she's gonna be like, make a move on him, or he's gonna make a move on her, and then that's gonna end up being like their deal, and he's gonna be like, you know, I hate the dude because you're in the same tent as him, and you're, you know, supposed to be marrying this dude, and, you know, because he already hates him because of stuff that the king did to him in his past. They're also on this like journey to this place to get married in front of like all of the packs. Weird, I know, but we're also discovering that, of course, their lands are diminishing. There's not really any like food for them there. There's not really any meat and stuff. We also kind of figure out like the different systems of magic in it and stuff, and I will say her powers are a lot better and more fleshed out than like some other characters have been. So like I will give her that, because the world with magic is a lot more fleshed out. But I will say, I do not, okay, listen, she's making it so that this king dude is like bad, but not like the worst. Okay, does that make sense? He basically using this charm, like, attracts people to him. And I'm kind of like, because it's a charm thing and they're not actually, if it wasn't there they wouldn't possibly be consenting to that. That doesn't feel right to me. Just saying. Now, like, there is an argument for, like, maybe it just enhances it, but it still feels real weird, right? That, because it's like, they're talking about, like, how women throw themselves at him, and I'm like, what is happening? And I'm like, I don't, that feels a little weird, doesn't it? Anyways, it's also, like, he's being, like, nice to her in different ways, and she's talking about, like, how attractive he is and stuff. And I'm just sitting here and I'm just frustrated with it, because I know that I know it's to create division and be like, maybe, but I also know, because of the title of the book, that it's not gonna be him. He's gonna be the villain of the story. Also, because I've read her other books, I know the formatting. Alright? And so, it's weird to me to have her being like, you know, maybe he can help and be the good guy and release Aurora and everything will be fine. And I'm like, that's not what's gonna happen. And then also just like, yeah, I guess like the way that she has kind of set it up with him and it being like, well, he's not that bad. What are you talking about? Also, Evander, don't love him as much either. He like, I think he knows that there's a charm. Right? Yeah, he does. And so she's, like, basically forced to kiss him, basically. Like, her brain is like, yeah, you want to kiss him. But again, it's only because of the charm, and he worked the charm on her. And so she, like, you know, hadn't relieved herself and stuff. And so it was like, she was basically being forced to do this. And he calls her a whore. Sir, you know that there's a charm, and you're calling her that? You're not gonna tell her that? Like, listen, I know she's being defensive right now, but it took Aurora to tell her that? I don't like anybody who calls a woman that. We're gonna be very honest with each other. No! And she just, like, forgives him instantly because he's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. You're right, you shouldn't have. Okay. Also, you remember in, like, Twilight, how, like, I haven't really watched the movies, I've only really seen clips from it. I know that's a sin. But, like, you remember in Twilight where they, like, Jacob always has his shirt off, that, like, joke that he's, like, always taking his shirt off and stuff? That's these werewolves. They don't wear shirts, actually. They have trousers. That's it. I'm not kidding you. That's it. They're not wearing shirts. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I will say, for once, like, the world and all of this stuff, real good. The setup of the romance and the characters, I don't like either option that much, honestly. And listen, I know I'm probably gonna be like, oh, you know, Evander, he's, you know, gonna help them, and so he's so much better. Listen, I understand she forgave him. You know there's a charm. You know there's a charm. And you said that? I know she's being defensive, bro, but, like, that doesn't excuse it. Like, anyways. Yeah. If he says any more stuff like that, I genuinely might just have to throw my iPad at a wall. We have now 254 pages left of this. Or 56, sorry, because I read to 198. Oh, I want to choke somebody out. I'm so close to being done with this. I don't know if this is the last book in the series. I am praying that it is, because I don't want, if that book comes out, I know, knowing myself, I will probably want to do, like, an update and read that book. But maybe if I want to keep myself sane, I won't. Elise Kova, don't release any more books in this series. I beg of you. I will say, though, this has gone on for a very long time. The way that she's been connecting, it's only been in these last 3 books that she's been really connecting the world with, like, the Applegate Trading Company, the vampires and fae being, linked with, and then the Blight and also the Fade being taking up space, and them talking about the Elf King and the Human Queen because of that. Like, it's all kind of coinciding, especially with the last one, the Siren Duke. She was working with the father of the main character in book 2. I forget her name, but the Dance with the Fae Prince, that one, she was working with the girl in the Siren Duke was working with her father. That might have not just made any sense at all, but yeah. So everything is connecting, which I do appreciate, because I was wondering that in the second book, because it was kind of just like, yeah, other mythical beings exist. I was like, and they like mentioned like, oh yeah, there's a human queen. That was it. I was like, where's the rest of the connection? Anyways, we're getting that more now, so yay. Well, hello. I'm still sick. So, I'm now on page 300, so I have like 154 pages or something like that left. I don't know. But, okay, this story, guys. Do you mind if I talk to you with this angle? Alright, so we went from, again, you know how I was talking about like how her setups and stuff have been nice, and then she kind of ruins them? That's kind of what happened here, where I was like expecting for them to sneak around, and then it was like, nope, they're going on a trip together. It's just like, this dude's like, I can't let any harm fall on her. I'm gonna let her go with the knight dude who like has reason to betray me, and I'm just gonna let him go. But they're basically using this trip to like help plan their future escape. And then also, you know how I was talking about like, oh, I don't really love him that much? He hasn't won me over yet. We're gonna be very honest with each other. He has not won me over. Like, at all. And also, we found out that my dog is chugging water right now. She just left. Anyways, so we learned that, you know how I was ranting about how the charm, I feel like, is basically assault, because it's just like, she doesn't even say like enhances their want to like do that. She's just like, it makes them attracted to them. And I'm like, this reminds me of, for some reason, that movie Zapped with like Zendaya, that crappy like Disney movie where she like forces him to kiss her, and I'm like, that's kind of what this feels like in a way, because it's like, they, like, if you didn't have this, they wouldn't be doing this. They wouldn't be throwing themselves at you. And we discover that the knights also have that, and then, so that's basically the big conflict of this, is like, how dare you? You've helped me with everything, and you've, like, made it so that, you know, I'm able to live and stuff, and you've been really kind to me. And so she's like, how dare you use the gem? So, but he's like, oh, I never actually used it on you. And I'm like, I find it really funny, because throughout this entire book, the dude that we are supposed to not like, right, the king, who is actually a horrible person, she's like, gives him the benefit of the doubt. And then this dude that she's claiming to love, the second she hears that, she's like, oh, I can't trust him anymore. But she hears, like, this dude, the king dude, saying some of the most vile things to her, and then act nice, like, a couple seconds later, and she's like, but, like, maybe he can work with us. And then he does this, and she's like, I'll never trust you again. I'm like, okay, I can understand why it's like that, but it's just really funny to me that she didn't even once be like, maybe he's not using the charm on me, maybe, you know, he's telling the truth. She was just like, I'm never gonna speak to you again. I was like, what is happening, bro? You, like, gave so much empathy to the other guy, and now you're like, this book is a lot more sexual than the other ones. I will say that. It talks more about it, but doesn't go into, like, detail of everything. It just has more of it. Does that make sense? I don't know. Anyways, that's my update. I might see you at the end of this book. I might see you before that. I have no idea. All I know is that this video is already probably really long. is it? Where is it? Ah. I did it! It's now Sunday. I finished A Dawn with the Wolf Knight. That name is still so stupid to say. I ended up giving it 2 stars. Now, I think that has more to do with, like, the experience and being very tired with these books than, like, possibly the actual rating that it deserves, but as of right now, 2 stars. Listen, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I had fun with this series. For some reason, this series tried to take me out, alright? First things first, I hit my head, I got food poisoning, our air conditioner went out, we stayed in a hotel for like 2 days. I then, and now, have COVID, and then also our power went out for like an hour. And you know what's been happening what I've been doing when all this has been happening? I've been reading this book series. Alright, this book series is truly trying to take me out. Alright, so I am happy to be done with it, especially because the last 2 books were very much dragging. I think she could have left this at a trilogy and it would have been good. Alright, the first 3 books were, yes, very much the same format, but they were good for what they were, alright? And then you get the last 2, and it kind of feels like she's just trying really hard to up the spice to bring in new people into it, especially with this one, with how heavy it was with that. It kind of just feels like she saw that there were romantic-y books that were doing good, and they had, like, a ton of spice in them, and that's what was getting people to read them, and so she was like, let me just add more to these books. And I'm just like, I didn't need that. I actually enjoyed the first 3 ones with, like, their very minimal, like, kind of somewhat fade to black type of spice. And to now have it be, like, a whole book where that's, like, part of the plot is crazy. The last 2 books do up it, which I wasn't expecting. In fact, when I was reading the Siren Duke, I was like, huh? I was not expecting that, alright? And so to have that happen, and then also the format did very much stay the same, where it was a human, there's a curse happening, they somehow wind up with those people, they're treated horribly, this main character dude falls in love with them, they're not believed about somebody being bad, that person ends up being bad, there's they are putting pressure on each other to tell each other that they love them within, like, the first 2 months of knowing each other. Like, it's so annoying, right? And I'm gonna say it again, even though I probably already said it 50 times in this video. These were not meant to be read back to back like I did. Alright, I believe that it would be a lot more forgiving if I had done what I believe these are intended for, which is, like, maybe a couple weeks apart. Maybe even, like, a couple months apart. Just, like, this is a series, but it's very tiny text that is the series, and they all are a part of the same world, but it's all, like, barely mentioned that it's correlated, except for this last book. This was the first time that we had, like, interaction between 2 main characters right at the end. It was in the epilogue of A Dawn with the Wolf Knight. That was, like, the first time that that's happened. I will say, I'm just gonna say, I was not expecting the ending of A Dawn with the Wolf Knight. I genuinely wasn't. And maybe that's just because I was dumb and, like, zoning out while reading this, because I was just wanting to be done with it. Or maybe it's just because it was, like, actually decent. I feel like she realized stuff as she was kind of writing, because I noticed things were slightly different with the last 2 books, where obviously more smut, but there was also, like, it wasn't just playing into very obvious tropes, or, like, I couldn't guess those endings, while the first 3 hours, like, that's what's gonna happen, which I do have to say, I do like the fact that these ones, also because the world was more complex and she actually spent more time on it, I feel like it was done better with the worlds. It's just the relationships are still a little lacking, and it's maybe just because, like, I don't know, I feel like the kind of person that I am is I like books where it's kind of a subplot, but it maybe happens over a couple books, because I feel like when it happens in one book and it's like instantly like they love each other, it kind of, to me, my brain doesn't like that as much, because it's like I want more setup, I want more tension, I want more conflict, but in a healthy way, because when you have conflict back to back like romance books do, it feels like a toxic relationship instead of like maybe the world, like, or something with their magic, or just like something like that would be a lot less toxic all in one book, with like the miscommunication or like them not saying something that they want them to. Like I feel like it's much better when it's a subplot and also over a couple books. And that's just my fantasy self talking. This is way more romance than I normally read, so that's really fun. But yeah, I don't know. I will say that this has been a very testing and trying book series, alright? And I think that this would not be as interesting of two videos, without it being the chaos that's been happening, very genuinely. And I also didn't really video me being sick, because I don't think, one, you want that, and two, I don't want to make content off of that. But yeah, I was so happy when I finished A Dawn with the Wolf Knight. There was an epilogue and I forced myself to read it. Anyways, this is the end of this series. I swear, if she puts out another book in the Married to Magic series, I'm going to throw myself off of a bridge. Thank you so much for watching and going on this terrifying and crazy journey with me. Hopefully the next thing that I do won't be this exciting. But we'll have to see, won't we? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Tell me what series I should read next. If you've read any of these books, if you've suffered along with me, let me know. Bye-bye. I have a frog in my throat.